Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, I mean, let's go. Not too excited about the beginning of today's show because we have another mass school shooting, this one in Madison, Wisconsin. And as we learn more, we'll pass it right along with you. But helping us go through at least the preliminary information, retired Lieutenant Commander from the NYPD, Joe Cardinale, is back on the James Show. And we already have this isn't an active shooting situation. There was a lone shooter, and he is deceased. And what do we know about the damage other than the shooter?
Well, we know that there's 5 injured. There's 2 others that they're confirming. There's 2 plus the shooter. So that's 3 confirmed dead. And we have to remind everybody that we don't know what the extent of the injuries are. It could be anything from flying glass to a twisted ankle to actually somebody else being shot. So, the hospitals, there are 2 trauma centers, within a couple of miles of each other over there that they get everybody to. And as the police chief said, that they did this, they're training for this. They do this all the time, and they just had training the other day on something like this. So it seems all the components came into play. Now it's just a question of, I know the shooter's probably identified at this point. I myself would have detectives at the house getting search warrants if needed for the kid's room. All right, since they are identified as a juvenile, so you still need a search warrant for that particular room, believe it or not, unless it's exigent circumstances. But other than that, all the wheels are in motion right now, and the big thing is going to be why. Why did this person go in there, and how did they get the gun into the school? Was the gun planted there? Was it in a backpack? Which also leads us to the next question of, is the school a soft target? We don't know.
Well, yeah, still more questions than answered. We know this is a private Christian school, and we saw the shooting, I guess it was last year, with the Nashville private Christian school getting shot up by one of its former students. The police chief said that this was a student at the school too. So, I mean, I know it's too early to say with any sort of definition, but do you have the feeling that that overlap isn't an accident?
I believe that the person had intimate knowledge of the school, probably went to the school, as they're saying, another student. But, what's the underlying factor? I mean, were there red flags going up before this that nobody saw? I mean, there's going to be the normal questions in this, and we all, want to know the answers to it. How did this person have access to a gun? Was it a licensed firearm, or was it not a licensed firearm? If it was licensed, once again, how did this person get access to the firearm? All right. Did this person have a car at the school, old enough to drive, still a juvenile, but still old enough to drive? All right. So did they have a vehicle at the school that they have to go through? But I'm sure you're going to hear when a person is identified, they're going to say, "Oh, I always thought something was up with this particular person when they did X, Y, and Z," and they'll go back on the social media. Were there any red flags there? And that's something I've been saying for a long time with, these logarithms on these social media sites. They kind of hinder anybody from going in and saying, well, this could have been identified had this been up and running on a social media platform, because you find out that they put like our shooter we talked about the other day, manifestos and everything else like that. But this might not be a manifesto case, but it might be something where this person was either getting help or needed help, and nobody picked up on it,
Well, so, mental health case is something that was brought up with the shooter from the United Health CEO. But other than that, these two don't seem to be very related. Like, I doubt this guy is mad about the healthcare system. He's a juvenile.
No, but it's the sensationalism of everything.
Right.
These kids, when they get involved in everything, it's just, like the sensationalism. They see something that happened. Even on this radio station, we spoke about it years ago with the Uvalde shooting, and we use that, and law enforcement goes on, and that's one of the big negatives in school shootings is that particular case, and what you learn from that, and what how you go on from there, and what the protocols are and everything. But aside from law enforcement stepping up their game and doing what they have to do to stay on top of these things, should they happen, getting all the components and emergency workers, the fire departments, the EMS workers, everybody getting involved, FBI, ATF, they all join in on that. But besides that, other people are watching, and these kids are watching how other kids do something, and they're looking how they react to certain things that may have happened in their lives. So the mental health aspect of this has to be addressed. And then what do we do to open up that door to let people see what's really going on with kids today, you know?
So what's the role of the parents when you have a juvenile that is the shooter? You know, do they have to sign off on the search warrants, or does that have any effect on how we get answers?
Well, search warrants in a room that's controlled by an individual that's, like even a juvenile, that's still their space. And we had to get search warrants for that particular room because the parents could not authorize anybody to go into that room. So it's very simple. You secure the room, you don't let anybody in there, and you just go and get a search warrant just to play it, safe. You get the search warrant whether you need it or not. All right, and you go in there with the search warrant. So later on down the road, you find out if there's any culpability here. And the other thing is, they already have precedents in parents being culpable in these. All right, we saw that already. And that's going to be the norm from now on. If you have firearms in the house and you didn't secure them, or that you knew your son or daughter has a gun, and it's always been mostly it's been men, but you think about it, and it's something that you as parents you have to say, you know what, little Johnny's been acting out lately. That gun's got to go someplace. Got to make sure everything is locked up where you can't get to something, And that's the world we live in today. But parents should know what's going on, especially when there's firearms in the house.
All right, Joe Cardinale, thanks for being on the James Show. Appreciate your time, sir.
Anytime, my friend. You take care.
Yeah, so 10:57 a.m. A student walks into his school, opens fire, and we have people dead and a few more in the hospital, and we're trying to put the pieces together. Yikes. Let's talk about it. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. More details on what's going down with this school shooting in Madison. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. On stories like this, your opinion is just as good as mine. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Madison Police Chief came out about an hour before the James Show started and did a press conference. I listened to the whole thing, and we're not getting a whole lot of information yet. We're awaiting some new info. There's supposed to be another press conference, and I guess it'll happen any second now, and we'll cut to it if we can. We have one camera that's fixated on a empty podium down in the bottom corner of the screen while they go on about their business on the rest of the Fox News and CNN I have on in the studio there. So we'll get you new updates as soon as they come in. But here's what we do know. Private school, Madison, Wisconsin. Let's go through some of the same things that we've done 1,000 times with these mass shootings. Let's try and evaluate here. Why is this such a big story compared to other shootings? Why is this going to be in national headlines? But we had 3 people that were killed in Dallas this weekend. Why isn't that national news? Well, I think we all know why, and I can spell it out for you. Whenever we see some kids get pulled over or someone try to get pulled over at 3 a.m. while they're getting off of I-30 onto, what was the road, Gus Thomason? Where was that? Yeah, and then they don't stop for the, Gus Thomason, there it was. So they don't stop for the Mesquite police, and then they crash when they're trying to do a high-speed U-turn to try and ditch the cops, and they all 4 run out on foot, and someone flashes a piece at the cops shoot back. We don't see our kids in that scenario. We don't see ourselves in that scenario. That's never going to happen to us. But the reason why these 3 people who are dead in Madison is going to be on the national news tonight is because these are, except for the shooter, these are people who did nothing wrong. These are people who are not caught up in the game. They're not out boosting cars. They're not out booting black tar heroin. They're not gangbangers. They're not druggies. They're not thuggies. They're not bad. They're just good little kids that went to school, and they're just trying to do their pre-algebra or whatever they were doing today. And by no fault of their own, even all the parents who've done everything right to make sure their kids are protected have to deal with this. That's what makes it so compelling. That's what makes it so scary. You can even say, well, public schools are so bad, I'm going to take the time and the effort and divert my scarce family resources to make sure my kids are going to a nice private school in Madison, Wisconsin. Still not safe. So that's why they want to... Number one, this fits the narrative. They want to drive this into the ground. They want people to feel despair and think, well, the safety, it's just, there's no safety to be found. We've got to do something about these guns. But if they reported everything equally, if they reported the 3 people that died just in the last 24 hours here in the Dallas area, running from the cops or getting shot up, and we don't know what it was, but teen dead after shooting in Mesquite, no arrest announced. This is another one off Galloway. We had more death in our own town than in this one. But it doesn't help the narrative. In fact, it would actively destroy the narrative if we reported honestly on all these. If we treated all lives and all murders equally, we wouldn't care about the Madison shooting because we would know that we're just drowning in bodies here in our own backyard. But it's not the kind of fix where people would say, oh, we got to do something about guns. We got to do something about gun safety. We got to do something about gun control. You wouldn't be asking those questions if this was all reported fairly. But we're awaiting new details. An empty podium's had. We'll do the whole thing when it walks up. If we're on a commercial break, we'll hit pause. Then when we come back from commercial break, we'll let you know about it. But this is the one that scares you if you're a parent. This is the one that scares you if you still have kids in school, or if you recently had kids in school, or maybe you have grandkids who are in school. And, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm not trying to say this isn't compelling, this isn't interesting, this isn't, newsworthy, a story like this. I just wish that there was more of an emphasis placed on all of the people that get shot in our backyard. It'd be kind of hard to convince the American people that we need more gun control when you would see like over 90% of the reporting on these gun crimes happen with people who are already in the game, who are already doing illegal stuff otherwise, who were out at 3 a.m. stealing cars or fighting over drug turf. you'd realize that the problem isn't the gun laws. The problem is clearly almost wholly existing in some very small cultural circles, and gun control is the rule of the roost there, and it doesn't do anything. Think about the guys who got in trouble for gun crimes. Just look at the local news around here. For the people who, let's say the guys got shot, were they legally allowed to have a gun? No. So gun control failed. What about the guys that pulled a gun on the cops yesterday? Yeah, well, probably shouldn't have had a gun. I think they were all juveniles. Gun control failed. And then here, if we looped it all together, we could say this happened at a school. Gun control failed. It's not going to be reported like that, but don't you wish it was? So we have 2 killed, 6 injured, according to CNN. And then also the shooter is dead. I really don't like counting the shooter among the victims here. When they say 3 dead, well, 2 are really dead, and the shooter killed himself. So we have 2 people that were murdered and a suicide. But that's going down. That's what happened at Madison today. So when you get home, hug your kiddos a little tighter. Or when you go pick them up from school or band practice or whatever they're doing, you got to go to the Christmas concert maybe tomorrow or something. Maybe go see the grandkids. Yeah, give them a little bit extra hug. And if they want to get a snack or they want to get a candy bar at the gas station or whatever, maybe just let them do that today. I know I haven't got the messages yet. Wait, let me check. I bet you I'm starting to get them now. We have the Ann Coulter rule is in effect, and the Ann Coulter rule is the longer they wait to tell you the demographics of the shooter, the less likely it is to be a straight white male. I know that's not fun. I know it's so early to say that, but there was an obvious dodge in the press conference before the show. I recorded it for you, just this little clip here.
They never fired their weapons.
That is correct.
Let's follow that one question.
I don't know if it's a male or a female, but the police department did not fire their weapons. Thank you.
Don't know if it's a male. How do you not know if it's a male or female? Is this like Ketanji Brown Jackson, who made her Broadway debut this weekend? That's later in the show. Who pretends like she can't tell the difference between a male or a female? Or do you know and not want to tell us? Is it a trans? Oh no, because that's what all the kids on X are saying. I don't see anything to back it up, but they put us in this situation when they don't just tell us. You know what? Why play the games? Why fuel the fire? Why do that? Because we have a whole nother ball of wax on our hands. That's kind of what we're waiting on now. Is this another trans shooting? Because there's been a lot of these lately. You know, the Colorado Springs, and I know what you're thinking, the Nashville one just last year. That was another private Christian school. Turned out it was someone who wrote a manifesto, and they're not too happy with Christians and Christianity. They are looking to take Christians down a peg. Same thing that happened at the Joel Osteen Church earlier this year. Another trans shooter came in there, started squeezing off rounds and got taken down. That one went out the window. You haven't heard anything else about the Joel Osteen Church shooter since it happened, have you? Oh my goodness, that's so weird. Well, you don't get regular updates. We still hadn't seen the manifesto. We just saw someone took some cell phone pictures of an open page and posted it on X. We had a leak of it, but you haven't seen the whole thing. We hadn't seen it typed out. We don't know. But you've heard about Uvalde. You've heard about Parkland and Sandy Hook and all the ones that fit the narrative. And we don't know if this one fits the narrative yet, but we're about to find out. And you may have to hear about this for the next few years to come, regular updates, or it'll just disappear into the ether, never to be heard from again. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Sports fans, James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. We have 2 Monday Night Football games. I don't know when we started doing that, but that makes Prize Picks a little extra fun here. Look, they've got some real low statistics over here. Bijan Robinson, the running back for Atlanta, his statistics says 0.5 rushing plus receiving TDs. So if he gets a touchdown, rushing or receiving, no matter what, boom, there's a winner right there. You get one other guy, you have a lineup, you can turn a little bit of money into a lot of money real quick. And if you want to get real adventurous and you want to make some difficult picks on a 6-man lineup, we have the payouts now to 1,000 times your cash. So a $5 play could get you $5,000 if you get them all correct. That's some serious Christmas money. Go check it out. Download the Prize Picks app with your first $5 play. If you use promo code WBAP, You'll get $50 in promo cash. And if you like the show and you want to me continue and maybe have my kids go to college, just download the app, try the promo code WBAP and play it. If you hate it, never play it again. You can even send me an email and cuss me out. But try it. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP, $50 with your first $5 play. Prize Picks. Run your game. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Find me on social media. WBAP's got your normal channels. We got Facebook and X are the most popular ones, but we have other stuff, YouTube, Instagram. Go check it out online. Next time you're goofing around, I know what you're doing when you're in the handicap stall at work, taking your time, goofing around on your phone. You can waste some of that time with us. Find WBAP on your social media as well. All right, my next guest is going to help us keep an eye on our money while all this other weird news is spinning around us. There's some things going on that affect your wallet. Spencer McGowan, first things first, the Fed is expected to announce their action on interest rates, if any. Are you expecting a cut? Go ahead. All right. So, how accurate are these predictions? Do they get it wrong often or ever? Right. So, what are we expecting with the changing of administrations? Because I've always said you can only do so much about inflation until you balance the budget. Uh, are we going to even get close to a balanced budget in your speculate? I know that's an impossible question, but if you have to guess based on what we know now, what would you say, Spence? Yes, and apparently the studio audience is too. We're big fans of Melee. Well, I'm not so big on the deficit spending, but most of his economics are closer than what we've been seeing. All right, so it's McGowan. I heard you a little bit this weekend. What's coming up next weekend on your show? Like if the S&P hits 6,000 or if Missy Elliott makes a comeback, something like that? All right, so it's McGowan. You can find him at Net Worth Radio. What's your website again? Is it networthradio.com? Yeah. I did that from memory now. I don't even need notes on you anymore, Spencer. All right, check him out on the weekends. He's on both WBAP and KLIF. I've actually heard him on the sister station this weekend. All right, coming up next, breaking news. Police Chief Sean Barnes is out, and he's making some statements on the school shooting that happened in Madison, Wisconsin this morning, and you'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. All right. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I'm going to play you the audio from the press conference from Sean Barnes, the police chief of Madison, Wisconsin. If you're looking for some answers, you're going to be really disappointed. Here's what he said just a few minutes ago. All right, you can stop it right there. When did this happen? That a kid's gender became so politically tinged that we couldn't even touch it. It used to be, it's a male juvenile or a female juvenile. We can't even throw the gender out anymore. Okay. All right. So that's 2024 going into 2025. Just knowing the gender, something that used to not be political for your entire life, is now political. Great. That everyone's so sensitive about that. That really helps. That's what we need right now. That's what we need. We don't want to have an open, honest, transparent discussion about the tragedy that's happening right behind you. Now, I always got to protect the narrative at all costs. Always got to protect it no matter what. So we have a school shoot. If you're just joining a school shooting in Madison, Wisconsin, 3 people are dead. 2 of them were killed by the teenage student, and then it's suspected he turned the gun on himself. He, she, we don't know. It could be a he, she. This is so exhausting. Come on now. We can't just drop it for a second. Police, we do not know motive for shooting. That's fair. The Madison mayor is now speaking. She says we need to do better to prevent gun violence. Great. That's just great. These people just waste no time immediately being political. And then I'm probably going to get messages from people saying I shouldn't be politicizing this immediately. I'm not politicizing it. So we have the Ann Coulter rule, which says the longer they wait to report the demographics of a criminal, the less likely it is to be a straight white man. It's someone that fits the narrative there. So we have the Ann Coulter rule in play, and I'm sad it exists. I'm sad we have to have this. I don't think it's fun or it's funny. This is one of the rules that comes to mind whenever we're told that when Caitlin Clark tells us we have white privilege or this place is inherently racist. Well, if it's not racist against black people, it's not racist against people of color. If anything, we have a whole set of community standards and ethos that are just blatantly anti-white. Whether it's every DEI initiative, whether it's affirmative action, whether it's how we report the news, whether it's how we just manifest race in these stories where there is no race. And then when there actually is some violence between, the transgender and the cisgendered community, it's almost exclusively in one direction and it gets swept under the rug. A perceived racist death of George Floyd. And I say perceived because Derek Chauvin never said any ethnic slurs. There's no evidence, not one shred of detail that says race was a factor at any point in the encounter. But that's just deemed as a racial, just obviously, these people are being picked on and destroyed, and that's how evil our society is. How many anti-Christian shootings do we have to have before someone even comes up with the word for it? Because we don't even have a word for it. Has anybody ever been called Christophobic? When the Nashville shooter went and shot up a private Christian school, was she called Christophobic? Is this person going to be called Christophobic for shooting up the private Christian school in Madison, Wisconsin, when there was a trans shooter with Free Palestine on her gun, shooting up the Joel Osteen Church in Houston? Was she called Christophobic or Jesusophobic? We don't even have a word for it. It's beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful. When there's no animus, they can manifest it. But when there's actual animus, they cover up for it. All in one direction. All to make you look bad. All to make me look bad. All to make this country look bad. Media, you stink. It's disgusting. You can't even hit pause for dead kids. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. And now here's a bunch of stuff I don't want to say, but I have to because the media does such a poor job. If you go online, you're going to see far more details. You're going to see far more footage that's being shown on TV. You're going to see internet sleuths digging up stuff before it'll ever make it to the TV. And this is your media now. This is far more trustworthy than what's on CNN. And you know it is, because whether or not, they get the details of this crystal clear or not, how can you trust them? They were shady when they reported on the Nashville Christian shooter. They were shady about reporting on the shooter at Joel Osteen's church. They were shady about the trans guy that killed his parents in St. George, Utah, the trans guy that went and shot up the club in Denver, the one who shot up the gay bar in Colorado Springs, the one who went on the shooting of mass transit in Aberdeen, the Philly shooter that was also trans. We've seen them do this too many times. And on top of that, not only just it's not a trans-specific pattern of lying. When they told you the trans people at the Olympics were Dionysus, not the Last Supper. We just found out the Duke lacrosse rape was absolutely a hoax beyond the shadow of a doubt. These are the people who told you just a few months ago that Biden wasn't demented and he was the best guy to be president. He wasn't going to be replaced. All these videos showing him glitching out like your AOL in 1998, that they're just cheap fakes. These are the same people that told you inflation is transitory and the vaccine works. Oh, you won't get sick. You won't transmit the disease. You won't go to the hospital. You won't die. You need to wear this mask too. Masks don't work. Everything from Trump-Russian collusion to Hunter's laptop being a Russian plant to the P-tapes to the very fine people quote, kids in cages to the Daniel Penny is a murderer, but Luigi Mangione is a hero. And they still they pretend like they don't know that's Hunter's cocaine in the White House. Now we can't trust them even when there's dead kids here. Media, I know they're not listening to me right now because it doesn't happen too much like with our local TV stations. Like this isn't a complaint about WFAA. And this isn't even really that much of a complaint about the Dallas Morning News. It's just that there's this weird gatekeeping problem that happens when you're a national news outlet. That you can pick a murder in one of our 250 biggest cities, and you can either make it go away or make it a main story and report on it so much that other media outlets necessarily have to report on it. And look at how ugly their story selection is. Just the ones that divide us. Just the ones that make us scared. Just the ones that make us doubt our constitutional rights. Those are the ones they highlight. And the sooner we can get that fixed. Again, I think internet's playing a bigger and bigger part in that every day. Going to X, whenever you see something where you go, oh, just roll your eyes at the TV. Now you have an alternative to go look up the real story. This is ugly, but I see that this can't last. This is going to be getting better and better and better as every day goes by, because there's more people to hold them accountable. It used to just be talk radio, but now we have talk radio plus the internet plus all of you. You're your own little networks. You don't know that, but those 800 followers you have on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, man, every little bit of that helps, because if we can get 1,000 or maybe 10,000 people like that tweeting the same thing, it reaches more people than a CNN does any day. I'll keep an eye on this, let you know what other shady stuff pops up. If they ever admit to who it is before the end of the show, you'll hear it here first. Help Salad & Go make the holidays bright for a child in need by donating to Cumulus Kids. Cumulus is our parent company. And if you donate $100 or more, go to WBAP.com. You will be entered into a drawing to win an autographed football from Deion Sanders, Micah Parsons, or Keith Urban tickets. So join Salad & Go and donate now. WBAP.com on the homepage. Look for Cumulus Kids. If you got any comments on the Madison shooter, I'd love to hear it. 800-288-9227. Brian Boyd, immigration attorney, next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. I want to say a big thank you to Steve. We're having a James Show meetup tomorrow, Richardson Bar and Grill, 7 p.m. You're not going to hear commercials for it. It's not an official event, just responding to people asking, we should hang out. So we're hanging out tomorrow, 7 p.m., Richardson Bar and Grill. After I get off work, I'll go put up the podcast and I don't know, put on some deodorant or something, and then come on out there. But I got the owners to do a special since they're WBAP listeners. First off, that's awesome. Secondly, if you order the hot wings tomorrow, it's going to be all right wings. And when I said that, I didn't know they sold them all together. So Steve had to spend a few hours this weekend picking through all the wings, picking out the right ones and the left ones. So I didn't know if they were sold separately or together. I don't know. But Steve took care of that. He sorted through all the wings this weekend, got all the left ones out of there. So tomorrow, all right wings at the Richardson Bar and Grill for the James Show meetup. If you want more info, just send me an email, james@wbap.com. My next guest is an immigration attorney, Brian Boyd, on the James Show. First things first, I was looking for some pieces of the wall on Craigslist or eBay, see if I get my hands on them, because it sounded pretty cheap, Brian.
Just say again?
Yeah, I was trying to buy some pieces of the wall on Craigslist, trying to get a good deal. I don't know, just maybe take it to the scrapyard or have a souvenir, but I couldn't find it that easy.
That's funny. That's funny.
All right, let's talk about what's going on at the U.S. southern border. Is there really like an auction where they're selling off the pieces? Was that a threat that got exaggerated in the media? What's really going on down there, Brian?
Well, from what I was observing, the Biden administration was trying to sell off all the materials for scrap pricing. And why they did that, I don't know. Maybe it was a spiteful act, but these are all good pieces, sections, concrete, steel, that are all part of the wall building. And I think they sold it for pennies on the dollar. And I was tracking that thinking, why the hell they would do it? And I guess they just did it for either spite or for the money. But that's it. But you introduced me as an immigration attorney. That's not what I am. I'm an intelligence officer, retired from the government.
Oh, yeah, I have BoydIntelligence.com as your website, right? Is that the right guy?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who I am. Yes,
all
you got me.
Thanks. I'll blame Garrett, the producer, for that. That's his job. If I mess up, I have someone to blame. But so, yeah, you're my scapegoat. So what happens in this interim period while we have a lame duck president, but Trump isn't quite the president yet? Is the Border Patrol still acting on Biden policies, or they sort of leaning toward Trump policies? It just seems they're in a weird situation.
Well, I think part of the joke is that we have an absentee president because he's out of touch, and it's being run by the staffers at the White House. So, that's really the question. So, but I think what happened, because Trump did talk to the Border Patrol, and between them and Tom Homan, who is the immigration czar, the border czar, they're already actively getting the Border Patrol to start doing what they were hired to do, which is to stop immigrants. Now, one of the things that Trump has done effectively, he's already worked with the president of Mexico to close the border from Mexico and Guatemala on the southern half and to stop the caravans from coming into the country. So he's already effectively leveraged the president of Mexico by threatening tariffs, as he's done the same thing with Canada. So the policies have already basically shifted or maybe morphed into the Trump campaign plan. So they're no longer behaving as they were under the Biden administration. That seems to be what's going on.
So whatever happened with the tense exchange of words between the new president of Mexico and Donald Trump about a month ago? There's a little bit of a back and forth that seems to have quieted down. Is she actually going to be a little more friendly than she sounded?
Well, I've been tracking that as well. And from what I was able to see, when he first threatened the tariffs, he did that on the public stage, threatening tariffs to Mexico and to other countries, for especially China, if they don't comply with his needs. And so by using the stick, he threatened the president of Mexico, but then apparently they had a couple of conversations since then, and they've come to some form of a quiet agreement. And now politically, she's saying that they're going to cooperate and keep the immigrants from coming across the border. And the first thing they did was the Mexican government closed the border on the southern half to Guatemala, so they don't have the access up through the country. And they're stopping and they're creating that Remain in Mexico policy. So whatever has happened as a result of that threat and then the follow-on conversations, that president's working. Now, Mexico changes presidents every 2 years. And so when you understand the dynamics of how short their time frame is in office, and because there's such heavy corruption in Mexico with the cartels, I think it's remarkable he's even gotten that kind of concession with the immigration.
So what do you think is going to happen first? Trump gets in office, and on that first day, he says he has like hundreds of executive orders that are going to come to pass. What's going to change immediately in those first couple of days?
Well, what will happen immediately is the borders are, Tom Homan will actually have the effect of going to work with ICE to grab all the illegal immigrants that have committed crimes. He's already leveraging that position since he is nominated. So it's not going to be like a magic wand the day the president comes aboard. He's already effectively creating this change because Homan has met with some of these mayors, including the Democratic mayors. He's already affected the city of New York with Adams, and he's gotten some concession out of Chicago and the state of Illinois. So it's already effectively morphing into his policies. Whatever executive orders after that day will actually take effect. Those issues are going to have to do with national security issues, the immigration issues, the border, as we said. But he's going to have a whole bunch of list of things to do.
Your thoughts on the drones, Brian Boyd?
The drone thing, I think, is there's two sides of this thing. Number one, it tells our enemies that we have to be absolutely incompetent or naive or something, because the media, with all the coverage by Admiral Kirby from the White House to Mayorkas to even the new National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, they all say nobody knows what this is all about. And what we're finding is there's a gap between the FCC, the Homeland Security, the FBI, the CIA, all these agencies basically don't have any real authority to do anything about these drones. Trump, even out of frustration, says if we can't find a yard, shoot them down. I think that's what the attitude is. The other side is that many of these drones are probably going to be found out to be young kids, people playing tricks on people, et cetera, because at least what's coming out of the White House, they say there is no international threat. They're not saying they're Iranian, they're not from the Chinese, they're not Russian. So I guess the assets that we have that monitor foreign behavior has at least cleared the air that they're not foreign-born. So that leaves up to young people and people here playing around with it here in the country. The trouble is, if this was Iran or Israel, we'd be shooting these things down automatically. The trouble is here we don't have any authority to do that, and that's where it becomes, at least in the public side, either the country's keeping secrets or we're absolutely incompetent because we can't figure out what this is.
All right, this is Brian Boyd. He's an intelligence expert, also does public speaking, thought leader, and shows up on our show every once in a while. Find him at boydintelligence.com. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for the invitation. Have a good day.
Coming up next, you'll hear Donald Trump's words. He was asked about the drone situation and also asked his thoughts on Luigi, the United Health CEO killer guy. That's coming up in 4 minutes on The James Show. If you got any comments, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. No, I don't know anything else about the shooter. Don't know the age, just know it's a juvenile. We're pretending not to know what the gender is, so that if that makes you suspicious, you should be. They have a great record of getting stuff wrong over the years. But what did Trump think about the drone situation? He was asked about it, and he's actually saying the same thing that most people have said to me. Now, usually they start with this as sort of like a preamble, like the preamble to the Constitution. They start with this preamble, and then they go into their theory. But when you're faced with the drone, when you see a congressman or when you see someone from the government come out and say, we need to know who this is. We don't know who this is. Someone does. Our military does. They just don't want to tell you. Somebody knows. They just, for whatever reason, they haven't shared it with all the congressmen yet. So they don't care if you go out and make a fool of yourself acting like this is all important. We need to be shooting these down. How do you know? How do you know? Could be some fat kid got a drone for Christmas and he's just testing it out early. Calm down. Not everything's an existential threat. Oh, I see a blinking light in the sky. Well, here's what we need to do. Get your gun. Let's shoot it. This is your first. So Donald Trump saying exactly what we're all thinking. They know. And the fact that they're keeping it a secret, it's kind of annoying, really. It's very patronizing.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people. And they should, because the people are really, they happen to be over Bedminster.
We want to know the truth. They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Oh, so maybe he has, because once you've won the election, even before you get the inauguration, you get a presidential daily briefing, which I don't think is like everything, but it's kind of they're getting you ramped up to speed. So when the first day comes around, you don't get caught off guard. Makes sense. So he's probably gotten some sort of briefing on those, and I bet you he knows that they know, and that's about all he can say, and he's just being somewhat judicious about it. But when I was a kid, I wondered why they would keep something like an Area 51 secret. Like when you saw Independence Day for the first time in like 1997 or whenever it was, you would think, like, why would they even keep this secret? Like, if there was a Men in Black, why would they keep it? If we had been contacted by aliens or a time traveler, why do we need to keep that secret? And the common response is, well, the people can't handle it. They would go crazy. Would we? Would we? I don't think we would care. I don't think it would change most of our lives one bit. Look, that would be amazing. Do they have any new technology for us? Doctors would be asking if they have, any medical breakthroughs and technology that they could share with us. I'm sure the guys in the oil patch would be asking if they have any great ideas for, drill bits or how we can develop energy sources. Hunter Biden would probably ask if they had crack. Now, you come from like 8 galaxies away. What are y'all smoking over there? It's got to be better than freebasing this stepped-on trucker crank I get from Garrett. That was a joke, by the way. Garrett's trucker crank is immaculate. He was never stepped on. So that kind of feels nice to almost, even though he can't admit it, to have a guy up there going, we know that they know. Because that was the exhausting thing. Because there was a Republican congressman from New Jersey. We need to be shooting these things down. Calm down. You sound like Seinfeld when he gets excited. It's just a drone, bro. No one's gotten hurt. Hadn't caused any car wrecks. Hadn't fallen on anybody's house. Hadn't ruined anybody's pizza party just yet. The other thing that was sort of a common sense quote from his press conference just in the last 12 hours here is that you're not going to believe this, but he actually condemns the murder of the United Health CEO. That's a bad thing. I know. What a brave statement. Murder is bad.
What do you make of the reaction around the suspected shooter? Does that tell you anything about how people
I think
about
it's a
healthcare?
terrible thing. I think it's really terrible that some people seem to admire him, like him. And I was happy to see that it wasn't specific to this gentleman that was killed. It's just an overall sickness as opposed to a specific sickness. That was a terrible thing. It was cold-blooded, just a cold-blooded, horrible killing. And how people can like this guy is, that's a sickness, actually. That's really very bad, especially the way it was done. It was so bad, right in the back.
Right. And I'm glad not only did he call out immediately, like, yeah, that's bad, that's sick, but also the people who are sort of sympathetic. There's a little bit of a sickness there. You're not as bad as the guy pulling the trigger, but there's something wrong with you. You rebelling? Oh, good. Huh? Well, that's what they get. Well, I'm not saying I'm okay with murder, but, and then whenever you say but, that sort of negates what you just said in the first half of the sentence. We've been kind of worried about you guys. We've been kind of worried about you celebrating this murder, like right after you shaved your head and swore off sex and threatened to leave the country and had a scream fest and all. There's some people who they're going to need to take some mental health days. I don't know. Do the people who are mentally healthy ever take mental health days? Or is that just one of those great little ironies in life? Yeah, that's kind of bothersome. How many people you've seen, how many people you know say, "Oh no, that's all right." He, you deny claims and you kill so many grandmas. Eventually, somebody's going to do something. What could you expect other than just being murdered in the street like a dog? Yeah, there's a lot of other things I could expect. I don't know. Maybe you could go try and repeal Obamacare, the thing that forces everybody to do business with the United Health CEO. You're forcing everybody into that trap. So some obvious paradoxes there. And Trump is such a stark contrast to the guy who's the president now. You might forget, president right now, still Joe Biden. Still Joe Biden. Dude, if he ever speaks to the public from now on, go watch it. He is slipping more and more by the day. He can barely put out sentences. He is like making the funny facial gestures like your toddler does when he's filling his diaper. There's going to be a reckoning because you know that this guy is not going to make it another 4 years. Like his body might make it another 4 years. But when he is not able to speak or in hospice or, I don't revel in the fact that he might die in the next 4 years. But when he doesn't make it through his next term, we'll all be looking around and be like, you guys, up until June, were saying this guy was the best guy for the next 4 years to be president. And it's almost like there's a next level of accountability that necessarily should be happening if something medically happens to this guy. But you're all caught up on that. Coming up next, could your family photos for Christmas get you into legal trouble? I don't know. Do you have to be careful with that, with your trademarks and registered trademarks, icons, intellectual property? We'll talk about that with an attorney next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, you probably didn't think about this before. Is there something in your Christmas card photo that could get you in legal trouble? Let's ask intellectual property attorney Kristen Roberts back on the James Show. Welcome back. What's the meaning of this, Kristen? I can get in trouble for my Christmas photos?
Well, I don't necessarily think you can get in trouble for your Christmas photos, but if you were a photographer, for example, offering Christmas photos for sale with a backdrop featuring the Grinch, and you called them a Grinchmas photo shoot, you might start getting some ire from Seuss Enterprises because they offer those things under license. So you personally probably aren't going to be in trouble for that, but more likely than not, your photographer could be.
Ah, I see where this is coming from. So if you use like a Coca-Cola logo or something, what level of icons or what should I say, trademarks or logos or whatever can you put in there?
Well, unless you have the rights to use any of those logos, you're not really allowed to use any of them. But really the question comes down to who's going to catch you, right? The smaller the shoot is, the more under the radar you are, that's really where it's going to be harder for those companies to kind of catch you and send you a letter or ask you to stop or ask you for some kind of compensation. Where I think it becomes problematic is when a photographer trying to drum up some business or another person trying to drum up some business of some kind puts out a shoot like this, and then it goes viral on social media and it starts to get a lot of attention. That's really where we start to see larger companies like Seuss Enterprises, like Disney, for example, start taking notice.
Yeah, I've heard something similar in the bar industry. You can't advertise, hey, come here to watch the Cowboys play whoever they're playing this weekend, without paying the NFL. So you basically have to pay like $10,000 just to put a poster in your window.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not just bars. It's also, big apartment complexes. If they're doing like a movie night, for example, in their, common area, or they do them on the lawn sometimes, and you invite people out to come have a movie night on the lawn. That counts as a public performance, and you could be in trouble for not paying the proper licensing for that.
Even if they don't charge anything?
Even if they don't charge anything, because the people that live there are paying money. So they'll say that it's close enough, right? They're still owed the money. So not always is it just because it's free makes it okay. You also have to assess whether the underlying activity can generate revenue. So would it lead to more residents, for example, wanting to sign up? Would it, right? So you have to be kind of careful about how you approach this stuff, because the owners of this intellectual property, they go as broad as possible. And that's what I do, right? When an intellectual property owner comes to me and says, hey, Kristen, I think someone is using this improperly, I'm not going to say, well, I think they're okay. I'm going to say, well, how broad can we get to protect you and get the best outcome for you?
That's interesting. So what about small business owners around here? Is there any way that they could be missing out on some revenue because people should be getting licenses they're not doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say some of the muralists in your area, there's a lot of small businesses that create paintings and murals on walls. If there's a mural that does really, really well, and a lot of tourists come and take pictures in front of it, and then, create postcards and things like that, that's definitely something that the muralist could potentially be getting money for, especially if their contracts with the building owners don't provide for that kind of use.
Oh, that's interesting. What if I know I have a lot of slavishly devoted listeners to the James Show. What if they wanted to make a T-shirt that says, I love the James Show? At what point could they get in trouble from my parent company?
Well, if the James Show is protected by trademark, which I'm assuming it is, then they can't use your trademarked phrase or your parent company's trademark phrase without authorization from the parent company for a fee. Now, if, for example, it's somebody famous and it winds up getting you more listeners and it gets you more, it gets you a broader audience, sometimes a parent company is going to go, yeah, you know what, we're going to overlook that because that actually helps us more than it hurts us. But that's up for the owner to decide. But
if someone wanted to, like in just regular old Times New Roman font, make a T-shirt that says, I love the James Show, they're not using any of our iconography or our graphics or any catchphrase. Could they do that?
It depends on what your James Show trademark is registered for. So if you've got a registration that just covers the radio entertainment services, then a T-shirt may be okay. But if the T-shirt connects people to the show and they go, oh, hey, is that James Show that we love so much? And everyone goes, yeah. And then they start taking away, your parent company may not be so happy about that.
But that only happens if they make the shirts and sell them, right? If you make it for personal use, is it different?
Yeah, personal use is usually okay.
All right. So there you go. For all of you people who are just madly in love with the show, there's where your legal boundaries are.
Make them shirts. No.
All right. Who needs to call you to find out where they can get some of these missing royalties and fees?
If they need to get in touch with me, they can find me on my website, TrestleLaw.com, TRESTLELAW.com.
What if you're a photographer and you see someone used your Dallas skyline for one of their posters? Is that something you do too?
Definitely reach out. Yeah, that's all copyright. I would say if photographers, the best step a photographer can take without hiring a lawyer is to register their photos with the Copyright Office. And they can do that by visiting copyright.gov, and they just submit the application through the internet themselves. It costs about between $30 and $50. It's a relatively low cost, low bar of entry to get your stuff protected.
All right, what's your website one more time?
TrestleLaw.com, TRESTLELAW.com.
Kristen Roberts, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming up next, Trump just got a $15 or maybe $16 million lawsuit settled by ABC for defamation, but I can play you 8 other people who said the same thing. Uh-oh. Receipts coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, some good news, sort of good news. ABC had to settle a defamation lawsuit. Donald Trump was suing specifically George Stephanopoulos and then ABC News at large, because not only did he make a statement, he made it like the thrust of his question, and then he repeated it, and that's a no-no. And it happened in an interview he did with Nancy Mace right before the election. And he has her on not to get to the bottom of what she's all about, not to make sure his listeners can better understand her platform of how she would govern. It's just a chance to slander Team Red and make Team Blue look good. Can we make this lady look crazy? Can we poke any holes into what she's trying to say? Not can we understand what she's trying to say? Can we poke holes in it? So Nancy Mace was being asked the typical barrage of questions that you got all year. How could you support a rapist? How could you support a guy who's done all this evil stuff, tried an insurrection? And anyway, the point is, when George Stephanopoulos says he was found liable for rape, that's the key sentence that just cost him $15 million. Well, $15 million is a donation ABC agrees to make to his presidential library or something like that. And then another $1 million for legal costs. So a $60 million settlement over this sentence, or this back and forth right here.
You've endorsed Donald Trump for president. Judges and 2 separate juries have found him liable for rape and for defaming the victim of that rape.
There you go. So that's
How do you
one.
square your endorsement of Donald Trump with the testimony we just saw?
Well, I will tell you, I was raped at the age of 16. I didn't come forward because of that judgment and shame that I felt. And it's a shame that you will never feel, George. And I'm not going to sit here on your show and be asked a question meant to shame me about another potential rape victim. I'm not going to do that.
It's actually not about shaming you. It's a question about Donald Trump.
No, you are shaming me.
Why are you supporting someone who's been found liable for rape?
Hey,
I just answered your question.
What is the answer?
He was not.
All right, so it's that little exchange right there. It has nothing to do with Nancy Mace's answer. Just the fact that he said twice he's been found liable for rape. Now, you've seen maybe the hostage videos that happen on The View, and Sunny Hostin has a lawyer say in her ear, you need to say this statement before we get sued too. This is why they have to do it. This is why you see them have to read off something clearly off the teleprompter. Earlier in the show, I said Matt Gaetz had raped underage women, but was cleared of all wrongdoing in a criminal court case. This is why they have to do it. This is why whenever you hear the tortured language from reporters on TV and the newspaper and the radio, sometimes it's not our fault that we have to say allegedly and reportedly, or that's being reported or hasn't been confirmed, or suspected killer when, you've seen him on video shooting him. This is why we have to add all these adjectives and adverbs to our reporting to avoid lawsuits like this. So just think about that next time you roll your eyes when we have to say allegedly, reportedly, whatever. Lawyers are evil, dude. They'll come after us for that. There are people who listen to this station with the specific intent of finding ways to take us down. But George Stephanopoulos said it, repeated it, and whether or not the $15 million is going to be missed or not, it worked. You see these people. This is why people are shaving their heads. This is why people are doing the 4B movement and swearing off men, because they've been convinced by lies like this that we not only are willing to overlook a convicted rapist, he's celebrated. And so it was worth $15 million for ABC to get that out. Are you kidding? Just think of all the free promotion they've given him, probably billions of dollars worth of free political advertising they've given for Team Blue over the last year and a half or so. This is nothing. This is totally worth it. I mean, there's women out there, and there's some well-meaning guys out there. Whoever's been convinced that this guy is actually an adjudicated rapist, think about how hardcore they are against Trump now. Think about how hardcore they support Team Blue. Think of how hard it would be to dislodge them from that position. So is this going to stop it? No, not really. $15 million is not going to change their mind very much. It will make them say the little hostage statements into the camera like you see on The View or whatnot. But until people go to jail, fines are only so much of a deterrent. Whenever a law is enforced by fines, that means it's legal for a price. That means it's legal if you can afford it. It's only illegal if you're one of the sorry bums out there that doesn't have $15 million slushing around in some fund that you can go keep yourself out of trouble for. Law shouldn't work like that. You go out there and you maliciously, recklessly, maybe even intentionally, George, slander people like this. People need to start going to jail. Is George Stephanopoulos going to pay this fine? Or is ABC going to cover it for him? So what's George Stephanopoulos' negative consequences to slandering the former president, now future president? Nothing. So if you see this and you're like, oh, well, this will show him. Well, it might not. I wouldn't get too excited about it. Because here's the other thing, the other piece of context that I think you might find is pretty important. If you go to thefederalist.com right now, they have an article where with the videos embedded in the article can show you 8 other times. Is this 8? Did I count that correctly? Other times CNN, MSNBC have said the exact same phrase that just cost ABC News $15 million. If you want to hear some examples, it won't take long. Here is, what's her name? Abby Phillips on CNN. You don't want to do it for me? Should be playing. Well, it's not. Dang it, because she's across from Scott Jennings and he's making his face like, oh my goodness, how many grenades am I going to have to roll into this room? And that's rhetorically speaking, that's figuratively speaking. I'm not calling for actual violence. But they have like George Conway on CNN. They have Liz Plank on MSNBC, Amisha Cross on MSNBC, Denver Riggleman on MSNBC. They have all the receipts on all of these. I don't know why it's not playing for you, though. I was going to be so happy to play some of this for you. Dang it. So embarrassing. But the point still stands. This is a $16 million turn of phrase that George Stephanopoulos just pulled off. I am not too high that this is going to stop George Stephanopoulos, but for these lesser people, this may stop them. And if I was Donald Trump, I would go after every single person who said that phrase without it being corrected or whatever. The problem is the people who all saw George Stephanopoulos say that lie twice in a 30-second span, are they ever going to see that he was wrong? Because the ruling came down, and so far ABC and CBS have ignored it. NBC actually reported on it, if you can believe that or not. It's like, oh my goodness, they actually reported on their rivals getting in trouble. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help the narrative, but it helps them.
Breaking late today, court filings showing a settlement has been reached between ABC, ABC News, anchor George Stephanopoulos, and President-elect Trump. ABC agreeing to make a $15 million donation to a future Trump presidential foundation and museum, pay $1 million to cover legal fees, and publish a statement of regret to settle a defamation lawsuit Trump filed against ABC, ABC News, and Stephanopoulos in March.
There you go. But will the people that saw the original lie, will they even see the statement that they put out? Probably not. You know, I would like to see anytime there's a case like this, if there's a settlement like this, lawyers don't ask for money. Ask for them to spend the exact same amount of time telling the truth as they did telling the lie. You know, that punishes them, yes, a little bit for $15 million. But wouldn't it be more of a punishment if you calculated all the time they pushed forward that lie and you made them spend the exact same amount of time telling the truth? Wouldn't that be great? Because we just found out last week that the Duke lacrosse stripper was lying the whole time about being raped. What if all of these channels had to go back and spend just as much time exonerating the falsely accused Duke lacrosse kids as they did condemning them? Wouldn't that do a lot more to undo the damage that they did? Because the damage that they did back then is emotional. People remember that they thought, oh, this is white privileged guys and racial animus, and the society just sweeps it under the rug because we're all just racist, and it's basically Mississippi burning in 1949 or whenever that movie was set. If they spend the same amount of time going in the other direction, wouldn't that kind of heal the divide? Wouldn't that kind of give pause to people who are going to be suspicious about other races? Wouldn't that show the world that we get along together amazingly, better than any other mixed society in the history of humankind? If we just harp on the negatives and not the positives, that helps the narrative. Well, your narrative's ugly, and I don't like it very much. That is a god-awful narrative you got there. You should be embarrassed. Pentatonics is coming to the American Airlines Center December 22nd. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com, or they're part of our giveaways that we're doing right now. You text the word Christmas to 800-288-9227, and you have a chance to see Pentatonics, American Airlines Center, December 22nd. Text Christmas to 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk to an internationally recognized expert in chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear issues, Dr. Jeff Brodeur. What's going on with the drones? That's coming up in about 7 minutes on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So what are the drones over the East Coast? Did we find out over the weekend? No, they're still pretending like they don't know. And we know that they know. We just know that they're not telling us yet. And do I know why? I really don't. Let's ask my next guest, Dr. Jeff Brodeur. He's coming back on from Rigaku. He's an internationally recognized expert in chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear issues, and also a pretty good guy to interview on the radio. Jeff, do we have anything official on where these drones are coming from?
Hey, sir, this is Jeff. Appreciate the invitation to come back. Absolutely not. And a shameless plug, how about those Cowboys?
Well, we found a team worse than us. We found it does happen.
That's okay. As a soldier, I always knew that past inspection, you stand next to somebody with muddier boots than yours. But that's not the subject. Let's kind of set the table on what other people are not talking about that our listeners need to know. In terms of authorities within the federal government for dealing with issues like this, the Federal Aviation the FAA manages our airspace. That's a federal domain. Their higher headquarters is Department of Transportation, which is an interesting point in a little bit. The FBI investigates violations and criminal activity, and the Department of Homeland Security is the lead federal agency for both Homeland Security and Defense. That's important to understand because Department of Defense is in support of Homeland Security for defense and defensive support of civil authorities. In other words, Department of Defense can't do anything unless DHS does the mother may I and grants them approval. Right now, our Secretary for Homeland Security said there is no threat. Department of Transportation is, as they say in the Army, AWOL. Department of Defense is in support. The FBI is in direct support. I'll tell you, I could fix this as the Secretary for Homeland Security tonight within the next 45 minutes. It's not hard. You publish a notice to airmen that there's an active threat measure in place for all unauthorized manned and unmanned aircraft. We have shoot-to-kill orders in place. Beware, beware, beware. That'll fix the problem. It won't find the perpetrator, but it'll fix our problem.
But it also lets us know that the fact that they're not shooting them down is that they probably know who it is and they're not a threat. I mean, that sounds actually believable.
Yeah, it sort of does, and it reminds me of 2019. So I'm going to read a couple of lines here for you. They sound pretty similar. In December of 2019, witnesses described groups of 6 to 30 drones with 6-foot wingspans flying in grid patterns at night.
Yeah.
That was in Northeast Colorado 4 years ago, from December 2019 to January 2020. That's a cold case. Nobody figured out who it was, what they were doing, or why they were doing it.
Yeah, I don't even remember that story, but that's a great analog to what's going on now.
That's why you have me, sir.
Right. So, look, do we know that these things are stationed off the coast, or is that also something they just told us so to throw us off the scent?
So this is the frustrating part to this whole. It's really not a complex problem. It's a very visible problem. This problem has existed currently for about 28 days, and our answer is we don't know. That's what the Secretary of Homeland Security said. That's what the FBI testified to Congress. We don't know what we don't know. 28 days going into this challenge, that's frankly an unacceptable answer. Understanding the timeline of the federal government's involvement in drones. In October of 2018, we had troops in Iraq that had drones dropping ordnance. And so there was a full court press for science and technology to find solutions for this issue. And then in 2019, a year later, we had drones in Colorado. In 2024, we have drones in New Jersey and the East Coast. We have technical kinetic and non-kinetic solutions to neutralize this threat.
All right, tell them where they can find your work outside of WBAP.
Thank you, sir. I'm on LinkedIn, the only Dr. Jeffrey Broder there is.
All right. Well, whenever they do admit that it's their drones, you can come back on and we'll do the I told you so round again, okay?
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Jeff Brodeur, Rigaku is his outfit. So if you need a good spectrometer, give him a call. Coming up next, I was kind of disappointed to hear that they were planning on building a Tom Thumb in the Redbird area in South Dallas, and then they canceled plans to open the store. Well, why is that news that we care about? Because the city council awarded them $5.8 million in taxpayer money last year to build the thing. What's going to happen to that money? Did you just get fleeced? We'll talk about it next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, I saw a disappointing headline in the Dallas Morning News, and I know it's disappointing because they told me it was disappointing. In the headline, geez, don't let your bias show too much here, but the headline says, very disappointed, anticipated Tom Thumb in Redbird area cancels plans to open a store. Now, you're not shocked. You don't have to be the most fluent in North Texas of your neighborhoods to know that, that's not the most affluent neighborhood North Texas has to offer. And if some store is looking at expanding and, they turn down a neighborhood, that's not really that big of a deal. Why is it news? Well, in my opinion, it's news because the city council promised $5.8 million in subsidies last year. And whoa, that's a big number. Hang on. Now, I'm not trying to be sensational. It's not as bad as it sounds. A lot of this is just tax incentives, meaning it's not money that was taken from you and given to them yet. It was going to be money that was taken from them from you and given to them after they had come in business, and we were going to pay them back some of their taxes. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. No, they were going to give them more of your money. So it wasn't all flushed down the toilet, but some of it was. Some of the money's already been spent. Part of the deal was they had to make improvements to this old site in order to prep it for Tom Thumb. And look, they did their market research, and they had until, they weren't to the deadline yet to pull out. So they're not breaking any contracts. They're not breaking any rules. They just did their due diligence and decided that, listen, bro, even though you guys are kicking in, how much was it to redo the building? I mean, these are some big numbers. $12 million. Redbird was supposed to spend $12 million on the building and site work, restriping the parking lot, things like that. Tom Thumb was supposed to make $5 million in improvements to finish out the building. So millions have already been spent, but they decided even with the 50,000 square foot supermarket bringing in around 90 jobs that they couldn't pull a profit in that area. And it's so interesting to see when this is covered by people who are steeped in the narrative, and they just can't figure out why. Why would companies leave these terrible neighborhoods? Well, it can't be anything wrong with the neighborhoods. It must be racism. I mean, that keeps coming up, but it's not that, y'all. It's not that. Can we even toss around some other ideas on why stores leave neighborhoods regardless of the skin tone of the people who live in close proximity? Because one thing they didn't bring up in this article, they were concerned about, the lack of high quality grocers in the area. And they were concerned about the lack of the delivery services that some people have in other areas. And it's just not fair. Anybody bring up some fact that maybe there's some shoplifting issues that are higher in some neighborhoods versus other neighborhoods that make a store not profitable? Nah, didn't even come up. Didn't even come up. Treating people like zoo animals is not helping them. Treating people like they're in fifth grade is not helping them. Treating them like full adults would be so much better. It wouldn't be pretty. It wouldn't be nice. It wouldn't be sensitive. But this patronizing stuff is not very respectful at all. It's a very benevolent form of racism in my book to just not even bring it up. Because you don't see this, you don't see the reporting even. Where I grew up, it was 40-minute round trip to the nearest gallon of milk. If you had, no one standing in your way and you hit all the green lights, it could take you 20 minutes to get to the nearest grocery store from where I grew up. And that's in the middle of nowhere. Anybody concerned about that? No one's ever concerned. In fact, if you drive a couple hours in any direction, people have a longer trip to get groceries than the people in the Redbird area of Dallas. Is there any concern about them living in a food desert? Is there any concern about, when we have failed people out in the sticks, it's because they're not walking distance to an organic bell pepper? I mean, they come up with every reason other than the most basic, obvious ones here. What are the fixes? How do we fix what's going wrong in some of these poor neighborhoods? Well, we should have after school programs, and they should have free lunch, and they should have free transportation. It's like, nah, that's what your dad's supposed to do. Y'all want to try dads at some point? Maybe the Tom Thumb is more profitable in Farmers Branch because they have more dads there. Maybe because, there are more dads, then there's less socioeconomic pain, there's less poverty, food's more readily available, there's less of an incentive to shoplift, and there's more of a, dare I say, ethics against shoplifting. And this isn't a race thing. The same thing happens no matter your color. If you're raised in a household with your dad, you happen to follow some very good statistics that just don't ever get brought up or even discussed. We have to pretend to not know some things that we know. But the problem here isn't even necessarily whether or not Tom Thumb is choosing their own neighborhoods or whether or not they're being leaned on. The problem is that they were about to give $5.8 million to these people. This is a lot of money. Like, I know this is a metropolitan area of 7 million people, but what in the world entitles Tom Thumb to get almost $6 million worth of help in order to build in that neighborhood? Why not Fiesta? Why not Kroger? Why not Brookshire's? Why not H-E-B? See, this is the dastardly part to where whenever you come up with these ideas, there's always going to be a human being sitting in some office in the Capitol or in City Hall, depending on what level of government you're at, that actually gets to be the dude who picks and chooses who gets these subsidies, who gets this help, who gets to benefit from this program. And so all you've done is distorted the market for grocery stores. And now it's not the best grocery store that gets the best quality at the best price with the best service. It's the company that now donates to the right politicians and sucks up and bribes and pays off City Hall. They're the ones that get to benefit. All under the guise of helping the little guy. Did the little guy get helped here? No. No, the little guy had his tax money stolen and flushed down the toilet. Tom Thumb almost got helped. Everyone lost in this one. All right, we have EAS alert, some severe weather in your area. We're going to let you know about it now because that's what we do on WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Behind the scenes, behind the curtain, it's this. That's not the facade, the front I'm putting on for the air product on the show. Things are getting a little brutal back here. People are sending me the before and after about the Madison shooter. The theory is on X, that's a trans. It's a dude that wants to be a girl, and there's already a screenshot of a manifesto, and none of this is confirmed, or I don't even like the sources it's coming from. It very well may be right, but what does it hurt if I just wait till tomorrow? In case I'm wrong and I stir up a bunch of stuff, I don't want to have to come out and do a George Stephanopoulos payoff apology or something like that. But look, the evidence is starting to pile up. Don't worry, I'm not dodging it. You know, when we know, I'm probably going to hammer it on tomorrow's show for sure. But keep sending me stuff. I don't mind if you send me the before and after pictures and some of the manifesto and the whatnot on the Madison school shooter. You know, and it's not that I hope you're right. It's just that it would make sense, and it would be another anti-Christian terror attack by a trans activist, which those are really starting to pile up. But we got to play Dead or Alive. Let's do some fun stuff. We'll get back into morbid territory on tomorrow's show when we have some of this nailed down. But today we're going to be playing for 2 tickets to see Brooks and Dunn. So if you're a fan of Brooks and Dunn, by the way, I hear Brooks and Dunn are not a fan of Brooks and Dunn. Did you know this rumor that they don't like each other? They have to like travel in separate buses, and they don't even talk to each other except for like when they're on stage. Like they absolutely hate each other, but they both tried to do like their independent careers and it never caught on. So now you're stuck with this dude that you absolutely loathe. I don't know. Look, you go on the road with some guy for decades, you probably ended up sleeping with each other's wives or girlfriends, or there's all kinds of drama that's gone on, like high school girls. But look, that's probably a heck of a show. They're going to be at Lucas Oil Live, WinStar World Casino and Resort, May 11th. Get tickets at winstar.com. Or if you want to win tickets to see Brooks and Dunn, call right now for Dead or Alive. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I have it lined up today, the Parker edition, just to let you know how painfully generic my name is. We did the James edition a few weeks ago. We're going to do the Parker edition on today's Dead or Alive. If anyone calls, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. History was made this weekend. We had the first Supreme Court justice be on Broadway. Ketanji, I think her name's Affirmative Action Jackson. Isn't that what it is? Ketanji Brown Jackson was in a live Broadway play this weekend called Anne Juliet, which there's Romeo and Juliet, but if you take Romeo out, it's just Anne Juliet. So if you erase the men from the picture, just like the Madison school shooter maybe wanted to do, we think, we'll get on that tomorrow. Now you're just left with Anne Juliet. So yeah, it's a radical feminist, LGBT plus Q, whatever, activist play that she was in. And I thought that was adorable because we're told that Clarence Thomas needs to recuse himself from all kinds of cases, especially ones that have to do with January 6th, because his wife has expressed support for January 6ers before. And so he's, of course, biased and tainted and not impartial and should be no part of those cases. Cool. Does this mean KBJ, Ketanji Brown Jackson, has to recuse herself from any case having to do with LGBTQ issues now that she's demonstrated, not only publicly, but live on a Broadway play, that she has a pre-existing bias? Oh, no one's going to call for that? Oh, that doesn't make any sense, because that would mean they're absolute political hacks and dishonest and not serious about them asking for Clarence Thomas to recuse himself. I don't believe it. They wouldn't lie just to get Clarence Thomas to recuse himself. That would not be playing fair. You know, these people don't care. All right, with that being said, y'all ready for Dead or Alive? Let's hit it. All right. Thank you, Mr. Joe V. Welcome to Dead or Alive. I am your host, James Parker. Today we're playing for 2 tickets to see Brooks and Dunn coming to Lucas Oil Live at WinStar World Casino and Resort, May 11th. For the rest of us, we get our tickets at winstar.com, but we'll see if Becky can get them from us. Becky in Arlington, you're first up on Dead or Alive, the Parker edition. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Actress Parker Posey. Is she dead or alive?
Alive?
She's alive, yeah. She's only 56. Actress Sarah Jessica Parker, dead or alive?
Alive.
She is. The last big chief of the Comanches, Quanah Parker, is he dead or alive?
I have no idea.
Well, you want to guess?
I'm going to say alive.
No, he died in 1911. So he's,
oh, my God.
Yeah, he's been dead for 113 years. Don't hang up. We might have to walk back around to you. Who's next up here? Chadwick. Your name's Chadwick?
Yes.
That sounds awesome. Mary Louise Parker, dead or alive?
Alive.
Bonnie Parker from Bonnie and Clyde, dead or alive?
Dead.
Died in 1934, so it's been 90 years. I'm glad you got that one. Fess Parker is the name of the actor. He played Davy Crockett for Disney all those years ago. Is he dead or alive?
Dead.
He is dead. Died in 2010. Trey Parker, as in Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park. Is he dead or alive?
Alive.
He is alive. 55 years old. And finally, for the tickets to go see Brooks and Dunn, the man's name is Jamison Parker. He's the other guy in Simon and Simon, not Gerald McRaney, the blonde one. Jamison Parker, is he dead or alive?
Alive.
He is alive. Oh, you did it. Yeah. Let's hit it again. All right, I'm going to put you on hold. Don't hang up. Garrett will get you information. Then he will email you the tickets. Chadwick from Hearst is our big winner on Dead or Alive. Chadwick sounds like he's like a foreigner from some white country, like Norway or Sweden or England or Wales or something. Like he knows words I don't. Right? Chadwick? Like Chadwick Boseman. It's like, will you hand me that? What is that, a wheelbarrow? No. In England, we call that piddly wickets. That's what it is, piddly wickets. Sounds like he knows words like piddly wickets. Coming up next, The View is not real happy with RFK coming in as Health and Human Services. And they're really concerned because he may be going after weight loss drugs. And no, I'm not making a fat joke. That they're really, really concerned that he may be taking away their Manjaro or Kilimanjaro or whatever it's called. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Dan Bongino. No, it's the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I sounded like the guy for a second there, didn't I? We're having the James Show unofficial meetup where we're all going to be piling into Richardson Bar and Grill. It's on Campbell, just east of 75. If you want more details, email me, james@wbap.com. This isn't like an official station event. You're not going to hear promos for it. We're not going to have a promo table there with any giveaways or whatever. It's just a bunch of people have been bugging me to hang out. And I think more people are interested in meeting each other, more so than me, which is fine. I just hear from a lot of people like it's how hard it is to have a social life now that you're in your 40s or 50s and the kids are gone and half the people think that you're a Nazi, and we'll find some like-minded people tomorrow at 7. I just had to show you this. Whoopi Goldberg got all offended because she thinks someone might be taking away her Manjaro. Now, Whoopi Goldberg is someone I give a lot of grief on this show. Make no mistake, I like her. I like Rosie O'Donnell. I like Kathy Griffin. Now, as human beings, maybe not so much, but they are great comedians. I can't pretend like I haven't seen Whoopi stand up that I laughed at. I can't pretend like that. I can't pretend like I didn't like Sister Act and I didn't like all her other movies that she was in over the years. And can't pretend. Same thing with Rosie O'Donnell. She has pretty good stand-up. Joy Behar, actually pretty good stand-up. Kind of pains me to say. Chelsea Handler, pretty good stand-up. I like it. And actually, in real life, many of my friends are just crazy leftists like this. Why? Because I don't know. I don't pick friends based on their ideology. But you just got to hear this. Whoopi Goldberg. It starts off with what may be a legit critique of RFK and turns into the idea that she doesn't want her Manjaro taken away. And she gives you a little too much information here. Like, I want you to think, like, Whoopi Goldberg's lost a lot of weight this year. But how big did she get? She'll tell you. This is so weird. But this was from The View on Friday.
This isn't just about food.
No, it's not.
This is sometimes people are born genetically larger.
Agreed. I didn't mean to.
No, I know you didn't.
Yeah.
But I want to say this to RFK. That's his name. Because you're setting folks up for shame.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying. Maybe you don't know you're doing. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
All right, let me pause right here because there's some more good stuff coming up. But just as a first off, is there any way you can make the case that people need to get in shape without risking the idea that they may be shamed for being out of shape? Of course not. I don't want you to be someone who's a sociopath, but there is such thing as having too much empathy, and there is such thing as like too much empathy being a very bad thing. Never telling somebody that their breath stinks isn't a good thing. Never telling somebody, hey, be good if you got in shape or maybe lost 100 pounds or so. Telling people to correct their bad behaviors because you want a better future for them is not bad. It may be shameful accidentally, but you should still do it. Anyway, that being said, the whole idea that RFK is telling people, hey, maybe you should get in shape instead of taking all these drugs, that's not a bad thing, but that's okay. She sees it that way. That's fine. I also wanted to point out before we get to the rest of the soundbite, she's saying, well, there are some people just genetically predisposed to being huge.
I'm going to say you don't know, you don't realize what you do to people when you say stuff like that, because it doesn't work for everybody. And I'm going to show you, sir, because I weighed close to 300 less than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Bro, I had no idea she had gotten up to 300 pounds. Oh my God, she outweighed me by almost 100 pounds, and I'm 6'3". Good Lord. Like, I know she had gotten big, and I even made some beanbag jokes about her. I feel bad. I didn't know she was that big. 300 pounds is a lot, because what is she, like 5'8"? My goodness. Imagine carrying around just, like, she looks like she's maybe 200 at the most now. Imagine carrying around a 100-pound plate, the weights that you put on the barbells at the gym. All right, if you've ever been to a gym before, there's weights you put on barbells. Imagine just holding one of those 100-pound ones and carrying around all day. That's what she did. Good Lord. You don't want that improvement for other people? Anyway, hang on. It gets better. She's not done.
And without the Manjaro, this would not have happened.
There you go. Take it off. Take it off.
So she stands up and kind of twists around.
There you go. I try to tell everybody, listen, this worked for me. This may work for y'all. You cannot take it out of people's hands if it can help. Because if we can keep people healthy, if we can get rid of diabetes, if we can get rid of all of the things cardiovascular, what's wrong with trying to do that?
Nothing.
You're wrong on this, R.
All right, so all he's saying is you don't have to take drugs to do it. You could diet and exercise. And I think Manjaro just kind of disproves the point she was making at the beginning. Well, maybe you're not just predestined by your genetics to a life of being 300 pounds. Maybe if you just stopped eating with a shovel, you could lose some weight, because she didn't start exercising. All Manjaro makes you do in these, I know people on them, they just make you eat less. And so it kind of dispels a lot of what RFK's saying and what a lot I hear from listeners and some of my wife and her friends. Oh, these preservatives are so bad, or these genetically modified carrots are bad, or industrial strength herbicides, or you don't even know what you're putting in this food, and there's all kinds of gluten and it's terrible, and BPA and whatever the lining they put in the plastic. No, it's not that. Because we're seeing the people, they're still eating fast food, they're still eating genetically modified, they're still eating gluten, and they're losing weight. Why? Because they're just eating less. The balance of caloric intake versus calories burned happens to go in the right direction if we could just convince you not to eat for recreation, not to eat for sport, not to eat like you're on ESPN Coney Island July 4th. No, I think that's the lesson we're learning here. It's not preservatives. It's not genetically modified. You just eat less, significantly less in your case. Whoopee. And how about we just throw in there exercise? Does that make me a bad person? Fine. I'm a bad person because I don't just want you to be not fat. I also want you to have a little bit of strength. Don't be the weakest version of yourself possible, because being weak fat is barely better than, being weak thin is barely better than being weak fat. That's as close as I get to being a philosopher. That's all you're going to get out of me. Before I get out of here, Gabriel Iglesias coming to Lucas Oil Live, WinStar World Casino and Resort, February 1st. I know that's some people's favorite comedian out there. If you want to go, you can go to winstar.com, or it's one of our contests. Text the word funny to 800-288-9227. Like me, funny, to 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.